Never mind.
Hey, we started out with never mind, but my name is Dr. Christopher Vogelmann. Welcome to the Total Health Live Friday edition, which is all of our editions, I guess. So we're always here at 1 o'clock on Fridays, 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern, and everywhere else in between. With me today, as always, is
Me, Monika Klein from Coaching for Health. And happy to be here. Our fabulous Friday updates and Q&A and any other things we want to throw in there. And I have no props, no vegetables, nothing today.
Big Chewy's gone?
No, he's still here. He's still with us. But I baked 3 little pumpkins the other day, and now I've got pumpkin soup for a few days. And
oh boy,
feeding it to my people here. But it's really tasty, and it's such a simple recipe. I mean, onions, pumpkin. That's it. What's this?
Oh, sorry. That's the thing you were going to talk about a little bit here.
Yes.
I'm going to pull it out of here. There we go. That's
right on to. So anyway, that's my pumpkin story for this week. I seem to have a pumpkin update every week in these last month or so. So
are you finished with the pumpkins?
I have 3 more pumpkins to cook, but bake. I mean, but pumpkins. I think there should be a year-round fruit for sure. A fruit, vegetable, squash.
I guess it is a fruit because it has seeds and it's a ripened ovum.
Well, I don't think it is a fruit though. Technically,
it's not a fruit?
No. All squash.
A cucumber is a fruit though. That's what's interesting.
Well,
and so is a tomato.
Yes, I do know about the tomatoes and avocados, but anyway,
we'll leave that for another day.
Yes. So COVID news. Of course, the Pfizer vaccine is on its way, and there's been a lot of tension and certainly pros and cons, big time pros and cons, having to be forced to take a vaccine. And a lot of the testing was done on healthy individuals. So how will it impact those who are more compromised? That's the question. And that's one of my personal fears, having my husband take it, because he would be the first in line for a vaccine, to receive the vaccine. Mm-hmm. So it is a concern.
Yeah, no, it's a concern for anyone with a loved one who has a degree of compromise in their immune system or any underlying health condition that might be made worse from increasing inflammation, which sometimes happens with any virus.
Well, but
vaccine, I should say. But viruses create inflammation too.
We still don't know all the side effects. I mean, there were 2 reported allergic reactions in the England. I don't know if it's the first trial, but I don't know if that's what we're calling it. We're calling it the first vaccinations in the UK. So
I found the fact check on that one, which is interesting.
Okay.
Some actually, let me just see if I can share it here for a second. I'm going to go over there. Boom, bada, boom, boom, boom. Clarifying the side effects. Let's see. Claims of negative health effects, including people who died in late stage trials. The claims are partly false because 6 people did die during the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine trials, but only 2 of them were given the vaccine. So that's what makes it.
So what did they die of?
The other ones died. The other ones died having had a placebo. So this is very interesting in terms.
Yeah, I mean that does not make any sense. There's so much stuff that doesn't make any sense. It's really quite amazing that
people can actually die from placebos because if they believe to a certain extent, I mean, placebos are like 26% effective in all trials. And so some people will actually get better from a vaccine, from the sugar water, whereas some people will, have different reactions. But I mean, it's you're looking at 44,000 people in a vaccine trial. And so everything is too early. I think that's the problem when you have the warp speed type of program.
And the problem is that they're saying fact when it's not fact. That is the problem. And people are, there was approval I saw today on the news. There was FDA approval to roll these vaccines out, like in coming weeks. And yet there's all this unknown, and I just think it's unconscionable for us to even be, doing this. I mean, the speed, just because people think it might help and it's not,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to. Perhaps it might, perhaps it won't. It's really
it's always a bit of a crapshoot when you look at these things, because I know that with the flu vaccine is only 50 to 60% effective in any given year. So there are people who take the flu vaccine who get the flu. So.
Yeah, I got the flu. I took it once. I got the flu, and I said, no, thank you. I'm not interested in doing this again. I'd rather have the flu and be done with it. And why take something that is foreign to the body if I don't need to? So, and it's very tricky, because I'm sure I'm going to have a call soon in the next month, if not earlier than that, by one of my husband's physicians saying, it's time.
Yeah.
And all the facts are not laid out. And
well, but here's the thing. You may not get all the facts laid out for 2 to 3 years. So do you wait 3 years? That's the question. Well,
that's a question. And I would suspect that my husband would probably want to take it, just because he's being fed all the corporate media information, which is, I don't think it's all that 100% true.
Well, nothing is 100%. I used to sell pharmaceuticals, and almost every side effect that you can think of can be attributed to every pharmaceutical, including people who get wired taking a tranquilizer, a benzodiazepine.
And that is true. And why is the media not reporting that? They're not reporting that. They're just saying it's a panacea, it's going to help, blah, blah, blah. And don't listen to anything else.
Well, you do have Reuters clearing some things up. So I don't know.
Well,
everybody is bad. I mean,
and is everybody paying attention to Reuters? No, they're usually paying attention more to the mainstream media, and that's what they're being fed, unfortunately. And yes, to your point about a placebo can cause, it's what you believe. I mean, it's mind over matter. It's what you believe will help you or hurt you is really the essence of all of this.
Well, part of it is because the efficacy of most medications that I used to sell declined over a 6-month period once a new pharmaceutical was released. And I think it's because the enthusiasm of the salesperson and the physician also dwindled over that 6 month to 1 year period.
And this is the only country that's allowed to advertise pharmaceuticals. They got rid of the alcohol ads and brought the pharmaceutical ads in.
And doctors feel a pressure to prescribe when a patient comes in, because they're afraid they're going to lose the patient to a competing practice. So.
Yeah, and the patient is coming in and saying, I saw this commercial. I mean, it's like, I saw this commercial for Weetabix or Wheaties or whatever. I'd like to have that. That's kind of the mentality. It's like, it's these are potent drugs that are not like something you can get on the cereal aisle.
So what I would suggest is that people do a lot of research, talk to your physician, always get a second or maybe a third opinion, and just use your best judgment. I mean, ultimately, your health is your personal responsibility, and we can't dictate to you what to do or what not to do.
And I think there's a concern that, travel will be restricted if you don't get the vaccine. And that's also a controversy and controversial. And a lot of people are pretty.
Well, if you can put things into, I mean, I hate using the term lockdown, or just into everybody stay at home for 6 to 8 weeks, this thing would be gone pretty fast. I mean, the decline, the testing rates would be below 1%, which is something that's easily manageable. So.
Yeah, and I mean, clearly, New Zealand and Australia have proven that, and I guess Singapore is in there as well. So, so there's a lot of questions for sure. So this is going to be a holiday like no other, which is the title of my newsletter that's going out tomorrow. Holiday like no other. So we're going to create new traditions, and I still sent Christmas cards out. I got them out to Canada yesterday because the deadline is usually the 10th. So I'm still going through the motions, have my Christmas tree up, have the lights up. It's nice. It's really.
We have lots of nice bright lights. I really like it.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, for me, because I haven't been as what should I say? I haven't been as out there. That's not the right way.
Festive, ebullient.
No, like in previous years, I have some restrictions because I have to be at home with my husband oftentimes, if I don't have any help. Whereas most people are in that situation now; they have to be at home for the most part. I mean, we've done
you can zoom around the Christmas tree, so it's okay.
I do zoom around. Zoom. And so a lot of online holiday shopping for sure.
Oh yeah. And the, grocery stores and others, they will allow you to, department stores too, where they'll allow you to pick things up by just popping open your trunk and they stick things in. And then you just come home and clean things, which is fine.
Curbside.
Yeah, lots of
curbside. Yeah. So,
is there anything else on this topic, or you had
just there was some tips. I would love for you to get on my newsletter so you can get these newsletters that I create every 2 weeks. And so, and next time in 2 weeks, I have a holiday gift that I send to all my newsletter subscribers. So please tune in and make sure you watch that, or not watch that. Register for my newsletter. And so, it's all about, for topic number 1. I don't want to give you the whole newsletter, but the first tip is love is what it's all about. That's the most important thing. Being with each other, caring about each other, it's not about gifts. Love is the gift. Love is the gift. So with your loved ones, your friends and your family, however you can get together with them, Zooming, FaceTime, phone calls, whatever, even helping out the needy and in finding, I know there's local resources that you can call and see how you might be able to help the less fortunate. So that's also a show of love and compassion for your fellow traveler here. So that's just one of the tips that I'm sharing in my newsletter, but that is.
So sign up at coachingforhealth.com for that newsletter.
Coaching for Health. You got it.
Hey, so let's move to the Q&A section. Right? What's that?
Which brings us to our questions, right?
Question.
Questiones. Fragen is in German.
Fragen. What about Volkswagen? That's not right.
Volkswagen.
Questions from the folks.
It's Fragen. FR.
Okay, so we have Huntington Beach. I know this very well, up the road from us.
Huntington Beach. Wow.
This is Martin or Martine. I don't want to. You could be Martine for all I know. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. I have lost a lot of weight recently, and actually a full 40 pounds. But I'm still experiencing, congratulations, Martin or Martine. But I'm still experiencing indigestion. I think I'm eating healthy, but why am I still having these symptoms?
Well, it's interesting because it's, weight loss will not cure everything, so to speak.
Like you were talking about your breath test earlier about doing.
So I'm doing I'm actually having some issues with some burning in my stomach area, and I've had a breath test, which is an H. pylori breath test. Helicobacter or H. pylori is Helicobacter pylori, which is responsible. It was an organism, a bacteria responsible for most ulcers. So I've done 2 in the past, and 1 showed positive, so I had to take the treatment on. And then I had 1 that showed negative, a couple of months later. But I also, in 2007, had blood work which showed H. pylori. Now, this is interesting because once it shows in your blood work, it will always show, no matter if it's dormant or active. So that's not an indicator that you've got an active infection. So if you are struggling with some pain, usually it's a burning sensation, you should probably ask your doctor to prescribe an H. pylori breath test. And you just have to go to a lab, and it's a very quick test. You don't eat or drink, I think 2 hours before. So
that's really not too bad, as opposed to people who are told to fast from midnight until they do their test. So
For H. pylori test, you mean, or blood work? You mean blood work test?
Well, no, but sometimes I'm just saying that if it's only a 2-hour fasting time, it makes it more convenient for somebody to get the test.
Yeah, it's convenient. It lasts a half an hour. You drink some sort of orange juice kind of fluid, and then you wait a half an hour, and then you recheck. So that it's pretty easy, and you get the results pretty quickly. However, I'm not sure if, Martin, you're suffering from those kinds of symptoms. If it's just purely indigestion, there are things you can do. And again, weight loss. How did you lose the weight? Did you lose it in a healthy way, or did you restrict yourself? What were you eating? Maybe you're allergic to some of the foods that you're eating. Maybe you've got some intolerance. Maybe that's causing the indigestion. How are you eating? Are you eating on the run? Are you eating standing up? Are you eating fast? So that can contribute to indigestion. Are you eating close to bedtime, or are you eating and then lying down or resting? I mean, that can constrict some of that area and push up.
So there are a lot of different factors involved here. If you want to PM Monika on the page, either Total Health Live, or better yet, the page that is Coaching for Health here on the Book of Faces, you can do that and give us a little more information without having to reveal things in the comment section.
The Book of Faces in the time of COVID.
I sometimes refer to it as Zook Book. So
the Book of Faces in the time of COVID. Doesn't that sound so archaic?
It's very, very medieval. Hey, speaking of, I was going to say archaic. That's not true, because you used to live in Canada, in Vancouver, or your mom lives there now.
I still have family there. Yeah. Do we have a question from Vancouver?
Trish from Vancouver, our neighbor to the north. She says it's really hard not to indulge in holiday favorites right now. I guess she loves eggnog, cookies, chocolate. What's the best strategy to not go overboard and gain the holiday 10?
Yeah, from the COVID 10 to the holiday 10, or the quarantine 10 or 30.
Which would give you 20 or 25.
It could be a cumulative, so hopefully it's not for you. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough time. However, we're not going out to parties, and we're not going, shopping as much. So we're not exposed to those environmental triggers that make us want to indulge. I had one of my husband's nurses say she went to Costco yesterday and she bought these cookies, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember those cookies, but they're not there. I don't see them. That's it. I mean, sometimes when you imagine, your salivation will start, but have a little bit if you want. If you're the type of person that can't have just a little bit, you have to find a way of minimizing your indulgent tendencies.
I would say choose something that still gives you a mouth feel without being packed with sugar or carbs.
So my thing is, if I feel like it, if I want a little bit sweet right now, I'll have like a little sliver of pumpkin pie, because I'm the pumpkin queen now. I've been the newly appointed pumpkin queen. So I'll just have a little, and that satisfies me. It has the pumpkin in there, not a lot of sugar, and just the pumpkin, which is really healing for the gut lining anyway. So there's different kinds of pumpkin pies out there.
It also has the word pie in it, which I like.
Pie, yes. And you don't have to have the crust either. You don't have to have the crust. There's this really great recipe that I'm going to make. It's these coconut balls with almond flour and coconut. And I'll have to give you the recipe after I try it. But it looked really yummy, and it's just enough sweet to satisfy your sweet tooth.
Mm-hmm.
And easy to make.
Those are good suggestions. I think, the major thing is that when you see a large spread of party foods, it's difficult to resist. But if you're in control of your party at home, or just your countertop at home or your table at home, you should be able to control what is there, unless you're roaming around the neighborhood, which is something I would not recommend.
Yeah. So listen, this year you have more control. You have more control, and you're not going to all those. You're not as vulnerable this year. Maybe you feel a little depressed. I don't know, but there's a lot to be hopeful for. And as I said just a minute ago, it's all about love and sharing with others. It's not about eating or gift giving. It's about being with.
And optimism feeds on being grateful. So gratitude feeds into optimism about the future.
And appreciate what you have. Appreciate everything in your life. That will give you the sweetness that you're looking for.
Well, here's somebody who has an appreciation for something that's unfortunately not so positive. It's Annette from Annapolis, my old neck of the woods. Oh. She's asking, Annapolis, up near the Naval Academy, she's asking, what's the best way to handle a gluten intolerance? I find it really hard to stay away from foods with gluten, visible and hidden sources. I try the best I can, but it's nearly impossible.
Well, what you have to do is you have to start looking for substitutes. Is it bread that you're, wanting to have? Is that what you said? Bread?
Says things with gluten.
Okay, so bread, there are gluten
obviously are hidden. I mean, you could substitute corn or rice for some of these things.
And there is gluten-free bread.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty good, and it's not loaded with a lot of stuff that is not that great. I mean, gluten-free is really sort of like overused, and sometimes it's they might have taken the gluten out, but they've loaded it with other things. So you want to watch for that. There's also really great recipes like gluten-free bread recipes. You can add, make it sweeter with some raisins in it, make it a raisin bread. So, I'm a big proponent at trying to, create things at home. You'll have more control. We're talking about control here a little bit. You'll have more control if you start cooking things at home and start using things like quinoa and millet and corn, as Christopher, you just said, and rice. I'm using, instead of oatmeal in the morning, I'm having a rice porridge. These are rice flakes. It's very common in the Asian culture to use these rice flakes, and I use that, and it's delicious. I'm so hooked on that, and it's just a little bit of sweetness and some like slivered almonds thrown in there. And it's not only does it taste good and I love it, it takes about 15 minutes to prepare, and it's calming. I was in a real state the other morning, and I just started making my rice porridge, and I just got so grounded and so calm just by stirring, just the action of stirring. So, cooking is very therapeutic. So think about that too. And so use some of these other non-gluten grains.
Yeah, I mean, amaranth is big in protein, and quinoa. There's a lot of different things that you can consume.
Kamut as well. Sometimes it's hard to find those grains on their own.
Millet, for example, is pretty easy to find. I find
millet. We used to have a millet pudding recipe actually from the Guiltless Gourmet. Was that what it was called? The health coach cookbook.
Something like that. I don't remember the exact title, but I do have it here on one of my
shelves. I loved that. That pudding. That was really yummy and very healthy.
Did somebody say pudding?
Pudding. I don't like Christmas pudding though.
Oh, okay.
Or mincemeat pie either. No, don't like that.
I actually enjoy mincemeat pie, which is something strange. I didn't as a kid, but I grew to like it over time.
Very sweet.
But I would just have a tiny bit of it. So.
What I would miss, did you say something about eggnog, or was that the other person?
That was the other one. That was that was Trish from Vancouver.
Trish, yeah. And by the way, Christopher, you and I used to have a saying about eggnog: from your eyes to your thighs.
From your eyes to the thighs.
From your eyes to your thighs.
Use your noggin and don't drink too much eggnog.
Yeah. We're wrapping this up quickly.
Oh, no, we have one more. We have one more.
One more. Okay.
And this is an anonymous person. This is a dieter from Chicago. I do love Chicago. Every time I've been there, it's great.
Dieter.
Chicago is just amazing as a city.
I think his name is Dieter.
Oh, I thought it was a dieter. D-I-E. Dieter from Chicago.
That's so funny.
Isn't that the same spelling?
I saw that question before, and I think his name is Dieter.
Oh, Dieter. So Dieter from Chicago asked, says, I grew up in Europe and ate pretty well growing up. My mother was a good natural cook. But since I've moved to the United States for work, now fully on 5 years, I work longer hours, exercise less, and find myself eating convenience food at times. Even the regular food is not what I was used to either. How can I get back on track? Oh, this one's one dear to my heart because I can eat certain things in Europe, in Germany, Switzerland, and France, and Italy too. And then when I come back to the US and try eating, our local sort of food supply, even sometimes the organic, which is somewhat tainted every once in a while by chemicals or storage, I find that I react differently to US food than I do to European food. So I'm with you on this one, Dieter.
Yeah, I hear that all the time, and I know I experience that as well. And so, yeah, the food is very different here. My mother, who is European, your mother as well, she always says, what's, the food, what is going on with the food? And she's been saying that for years, not just now that she's in a facility.
Well, he says, I used to hear, back in wherever, in Turkey or back in Germany, an apricot tastes like an apricot. But here it just sort of tastes kind of plain and almost has a cardboard quality to it.
Depends where you get it. Like if you grow these on your own in your own garden, you'll have that taste and that flavor. So I saw this really wonderful someone who did the cleanse with me. She's in Australia, and she's got this beautiful garden on her patio, on her balcony actually, and she so inspired me to create something similar. If you don't have any, earth, I mean, we do have some earth, but it's kind of, you can, I think we're going to have to do some pots and herbs and all sorts of vegetables because it's nothing like it. Tastes so good.
Pot's legal in California, so you can use pots.
Yeah. Pots for planting your vegetables and
for your
herbs
vegetables.
And your
it's a different kind of herb.
Yeah, Dieter, I mean, you might not have time for this, but you might consider that as a way to create a new hobby or
and shop in different places where organic foods are available. I notice a big difference, for example, from conventionally grown broccoli and organic broccoli. And in fact, we got a friend of ours back in the DC area to like broccoli after hating it for his entire life by feeding him organic broccoli. So
and the concern about the convenience foods, that happens when you're reaching out for those convenient foods when you haven't planned. So planning is really key. Plan for your meals in advance, and they don't have to be elaborate. They don't even, cook for a couple of days. Once you get into the hang of preparing things, it becomes pretty second nature. And so that's what I would recommend. So you're not,
Well, I think it all boils down to making health your priority.
Yeah, health. Yeah.
I mean,
and since you've been healthy before, Dieter, you want to preserve that.
Get back to where you once enjoyed health, Dieter.
Yeah, get back to where you once belonged. Dieter. So that's it for today. We've got a very truncated show today.
Truncated is okay because I got to work on my outline for my next broadcast at the top of the hour.
There you go. So we're happy to be here every weekend, every beginning of your weekend.
Beginning your week.
Beginning your weekend, yeah.
Right.
So, yay. Friday, yay. So with that, I wish you a very happy week and stay safe, stay healthy and strong. And bye for now.
Okay, I wish you get onto Monika's email list just by going to Coaching for Health and send any messages at the Coaching for Health Facebook page, or here at Total Health Live. You actually have to be a member in terms of the group, but if you're willing to join the group, we have a lot of other things we can share with you. So with that in mind, we'll be back next week. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any other comments or questions, just drop them in on the replay down below. Use the hashtag replay so that we know when we're searching for it, we can more easily find your questions and comments. Okay, that's it for now.
All right, take care. Bye-bye, everyone.